Hey, everybody. Oh. Hey, everybody. Jeff Gibby here. I hope you're doing well. Thanks for joining us. Hope you're having a good day. I was mentioning a little bit earlier, we have sun today outside, which it's been like Seattle here in Salt Lake this year, but I hope you're doing well. Hope you're enjoying the weather, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Today, we have a fairly good class where I kind of go through some of my favorite tools in MetaStock and kind of show you the things that I actually use when I'm looking for stocks. And so let's go ahead and get started. Today's demonstration is designed to instruct you on MetaStock and the accompanying software plugins, and is not a recommendation to buy or sell, but rather guidelines to interpreting and using specific indicators and features within the software. The information, software, and techniques presented today should only be used by investors who are aware of the risk inherent in trading. And MetaStock shall have no liability for any investment decisions based on the use of the software, any trading strategies, or any information provided in connection with the company. So, with that being said, most of you know who I am. I'm going to just kind of give a brief, I'm going to try and keep it really brief today because sometimes I go a little bit long. My name is Jeff Gibby. I've been working here at MetaStock for 23 years as of March 30th or something this year. So it's been a really good company to work for. I absolutely love it here. And I understand a lot of you guys are MetaStock users based on the GoToWebinar polling we had. So I want to thank you for that. Vincenzo already asked a question, so I'm going to say if you have questions, go ahead and feel free to ask them. Regardless of the platform that you're looking at, I have access to all of the questions. I'll try and not miss any. I apologize if I do. But his question, Vincenzo says, are you going to send the recording link? If you're going through GoToWebinar, Vincenzo, you are in this case, you'll get a recording link in exactly 1 hour after we get done today. So it's automatic. It should happen. If you don't see us, just reach out to us and we'll send you a copy of it. So yes, you will. If you do have questions as we go ahead and let me know. So in any case, just to kind of go back to me, 23 years here, spent a lot of time, almost a decade in inside sales. That was awesome. There was a good chance if you had questions about the software or what we did, I'd answer them for you. Spent about a decade or so in business development, and I still kind of wear that hat quite a bit, working with educators, different partners that we work through. And now I'm technically in charge of our inside sales team, and I still do a lot of the business development, arranging the special guest speakers that we have. And I'd say it's been a really, really good experience for me personally. I've learned a lot about the markets. I came in and one of the first things I learned about was what a stock is, and we went from there. But I'm grateful. It's been a really, really good place to work. I'm grateful that I've had the opportunity to represent MetaStock, because the thing is like we're going to talk a lot about kind of the hidden features of MetaStock today, and kind of the things that I use on a day-by-day basis. But there's so much there. And, over the last 23 years or so, we've seen competitors come into the space and go out of the space. We've seen software that is really a simplified trading system that they charge $3,000-$4,000 for. And with MetaStock, it's been good to represent it. Have a little bit of the MetaStock heritage on the screen for you. When I started, we were owned by Reuters, who then became Thomson Reuters, who then became Refinitiv now. So during that time, about 6 years ago, we purchased ourselves back from Reuters, so we're independently held. But we maintain a good relationship with Reuters, and that's been really a good thing for us, because no matter where you're at in the world or what markets you're interested in, we have that data for you. So, and literally we have products that they've invested $1 billion into that provide news, analytics, research, the same things that investment banks and hedge funds are using, and we provide that to you. So that kind of gets the one thing that I do like to mention when we talk about MetaStock, if you're not familiar with it. The thing I'd like to tell you is it's been rated #1 25 years in a row in Stocks and Commodities magazine. And I actually think that's 26 now. I had to go look at the number. But we did win again this year. And it's a great software program. It helps you test trading ideas. It helps you find the best trades. We're going to do quite a bit of scanning as we go through today. It helps you identify where a stock's likely to go based on a lot of really cool statistics using our patent pending forecaster. And it helps you get like real-time buy and sell signals, expert advice, expert commentary from our expert advisor. So in any case, today though, what we're going to be talking about is kind of some of the tools that I like the most in MetaStock. And here's a list of really what we're going to go through. The first thing I'm going to show you how to do is use a scanner to identify stocks that are trending stocks. And the reason I like to do that is I'm sure you've heard like the trend is your friend, or befriend the trend, or a rising tide lifts all boats. But generally for me, personally, I find it's a lot easier, and I think you might agree with me, but it's a lot easier to make money with a stock that's kind of trending in a certain direction. So I want to show you a very, very easy way that I found to find stocks that are actually moving. And that can be over any time period that you want. After when we're done with that, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about my favorite built-in system. I'm just going to bury the lead here. It's the RMO system. So we're going to talk a little bit about the system that I started using to trade. We'll cover it from a high level. I'm going to show you some dynamic trading tools and a really cool project I was involved in with a guy in Australia, actually, called the Haguro method. So the first thing, though, is, and there's a big list of stuff that's not covered. Let's go ahead and kind of talk a little bit about finding stocks that are kind of moving, okay, and how to build out a list of those. So let me go ahead and kind of move my MetaStock over here, okay? And we'll just talk a little bit about how scanning is. So if you're new to MetaStock, I'm going to go ahead and open up the Power Console. This is kind of the this is the Power Console. It opens up when you start up the program, and if we want to go in and open up a chart, we click on the Charting tab. If we want to run an exploration or a scan, you click on the Explore tab. System testing, we have a great system tester in MetaStock, that's right here, and then the forecaster. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to build out a list. What I want to do is I want to be able to find stocks that are moving. Okay, that's the whole point. I want to find stocks that have moved either up or down, depending on whether I'm bullish or bearish in the market, but I want to be able to see which ones have performed the best. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and click on the scanner here. Okay, and you'll notice, because I'm going to point it out, right here I've got a list of the scans that I regularly run. Okay, now if for some reason you're watching me today and you have an older version of MetaStock, this is a reason to upgrade. For me, the things that they did with kind of keeping the most recently used indicators on the top, the list of the stocks that you run, or the scans that you run in a favorites, I love this. Because on a daily basis, if I just want to run an exploration, I have all the ones, I have 218 explorations in here, but I have the 12 that I really look at on a regular basis right here at the top, okay? And I think that's worth like the small upgrade costs that they have in it by itself. So in any case, the scans that I'm going to kind of point out for this are there's two scans that you can look at, and it kind of depends on the time frame that you want to look at. But if we run the performance daily, you'll see with the tooltip that's popped up right here, this will run a scan and it'll tell you what's moved up the most over the last 1 day, 5 days, 10 days, 30 days, and 60 days. So that's what the tooltips is if you can't kind of read it because it's small text. On the monthly basis, this will actually look at monthly basis. So that'll do 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, and 24 months. Typically the one I'm really looking at is I'm looking for stuff that has moved up. Typically I want it to move up the most over the last 5 days. So the one that I typically like to scan against is the 5, 10, 30, the daily performance. What I'm going to do now is I've just got this exploration set to run, and I'm going to scan it against local data. The reason I scan it against local data is it runs a lot faster on local data, and that's important when we have 4 topics to talk about and 49 minutes left to do it. So what I'm going to do is I've got a list that I've built out in MetaStock that's all of the optionable stocks. I like to trade options. I like to trade ETFs on options. And I've got the S&P 500. Now you can, if you want to, just scan against your online data lists, and you could go in there and look at all the ETFs. You could look at all the NASDAQ stocks. They break them down very, very well. You could look at all the US optionable stocks. But for the purpose of just keeping things a little bit faster today, I'm going with local data lists that I just downloaded all the current data for. And we're going to scan about 4,800 stocks. So I'll go ahead and run that right now. Okay. All right, here it is. Okay, good. Okay. The other thing with the new version is if I had selected about 12 of the explorations, you'll notice right here I've only got one selected right now. But one of the other things that's really nice about kind of the way the new scanner works is if I had all 12 of these actually selected, it would actually go through all of those 12 scans, and I'd have just a list of all the scans that I'm running right here, and I could look at the results as soon as it's done with the first exploration, which is another thing that they recently added. And I just love kind of the things that we've been able to add to MetaStock since we bought our stuff back from Thomson Reuters. I think it's so handy to be able to do stuff like that. So what we're doing in a nutshell, and it's almost done, it's going through all of the stocks. It's not really rejecting a lot. That's not the point of this scan. What it's going to do is it's kind of figuring out where they've moved over those time frames that we mentioned a second ago. And it's almost done. So we got about 200 left to go, 100 left to go, and it's done. So there you go. Okay. So right here, out of those 4,800 stocks, about 226 were rejected, either because they didn't have data or they were bad symbols. That's understandable. What we've got left is 4,600 stocks. Okay. And all of them are listed here. Okay. We've got close, we've got the 1 day change, the 5 day change, the 10 day change, the 30 day change, or the 60 days. So for me, if I want to find stocks that have gone up the most over 10 days, or 5 days, or 30 days, all you had to do is sort it on this column. So if we click on 10 day right here, what you're going to see is a cent capital GS, the symbol is right here, ASCMA, has gone up 118 points. You've got one that's gone up 100 points, 66 points, 60, 56, etc., etc., etc. Now, I've been saying something incorrect here. That's okay. I hope you forgive me. It's actually not points. It's actually a percentage number. So this has gone up 118%. This has gone up about 100%. This has gone up 66%, 60%, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So if I wanted to look at everything that had gone up, now a lot of these, I do want to give a little bit of another disclaimer out here. A lot of these, the price values are fairly low, okay? So for me, I probably wouldn't be looking at General Molly here, just because it's 30 cents. You know, you might feel comfortable trading stocks that are kind of low value. For me personally, I have another scan that if you want, I can send you the code for, that actually weeds out all the stocks that are under $5. It just so happens I didn't make that part of the requirement today. Okay, so, but if I wanted to look at all the stocks that have gone up more than, let's say, 20% over the last 10 days, right? I've got a list right here. And if I wanted to save that list, what I'm typically going to do is I'm just going to come up here to, I've got this 118.96, okay? I'm going to scroll down to the number that I want to find, okay? In this case, it's 20%. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold the Shift key on my keyboard right here. I select the top one and I select the bottom one. And by holding the Shift key, it's going to highlight all of those for me. So if I want to make a list of the stocks that have gone up 20% or more, that's all I need to do. To save that in MetaStock, what I'm going to do is, now that I've got them selected, I'll right-click and I'll say Add to Custom List right here, okay? Now, you don't want to do it when you're looking to kind of narrow it down this way. Don't click the Save List button because that saves the whole list. We just want to save the ones that we've selected, so we want to right-click on the selection and click on Add to Custom List right here, okay? And you'll notice I have quite a few different lists that I've made already. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to call this, I'm going to create a new name for this. I'm going to add this to my custom list, which is what I'll typically, I'm going to call it May 29, and then 20% gainers. Okay, I'll go ahead and create that list. I'm going to go ahead and click OK. And now if I want to go back in and look at those charts in my Power Console, there is a list of just those 20% gainers. It's right here. There was about 50 that I selected, and they're all listed here. So now I can run further scans or explorations against that list. I can open up in the software. You can do anything you want to with it at that point. Okay. All right. We have a few questions that are coming in, and so let's go ahead and kind of just take a look at the chat box right here. Go to, for those of you that are listening in, go to webinar. Does my sound distorted? Vincenzo said there was a little bit of a distortion there. Let me know if it's an issue you're hearing. It looks like Mag is answering some questions about real-time NSE and BSE. We do cover 200 of your favorite exchanges, over 200 exchanges. And so what I used to tell people is if we don't cover it, that includes stocks, it includes options, it includes futures, it includes ETFs. The options is a little bit differently. Typically what I tell option traders, and around, I'm going to say 70% of our traders use stocks and options. Okay, but typically what you'll be using with the options is you'll be actually scanning for the underlying. If you have a directional approach, you want to find the best stock that's optionable to trade with, and that's typically the best way MetaStock works for you. In terms of NSE and BSE, that's the National Stock Exchange of India, and BSE, I don't remember what that is, but it's also in India. I'll remember it as soon as I'm done. We do cover those exchanges, but the Bombay Stock Exchange from the control room. So there you go. All right. So I have a sound is good. Yes, I'm cracking, a little distorted, but not bad on GoToWebinar. So I'll tell the control room. Hopefully they can fix that a little bit. I'm not sure, but they are aware of the crackiness. Also could be my voice. There's 2 seasons for me. There's allergy season and non-allergy season, so it actually might be my voice today. So in any case, so that's the setup list of trending stocks for scanning. I like to rank them based on how they've gone up in percentages. That's the first thing we're going to cover today. For the second part of the class, what I want to do is actually get some symbols for you. We're going to talk about trading system. I'm going to go back into the PowerPoint. And what I like to do with this one is actually look at your stock. So if you have a symbol that you're kind of interested in, send it through to me. I'd love to kind of look at yours. Otherwise, we'll look at the Dow Industrial Average, which is a little bit boring anyway. But I don't like to cherry pick examples when I'm talking about RMO. I'd like to give you like a realistic example of what you can expect with some random stocks. So if you do have a symbol to give me, go ahead and give me. Otherwise, we'll look at the Dow Industrial Average. But let's talk a little bit about my second favorite built-in system for MetaStock. And it's this is actually not my second favorite. This is the second thing I want to talk about today, which is my favorite built-in system that's included with MetaStock. It's called the Rahul Mohinder oscillator, and it's fantastic. I can't say enough good things about it, but I'll try and say a few good things about it too. So Rahul Mohinder, just to kind of give you some background on him, he is probably the longest running dealer that we've had in MetaStock. There might be some people that beat him, but he's actually been part of MetaStock for longer than I've been part of the company. I believe it's 25 years now. Okay. One of the things that we love about Rahul is he sells a lot of MetaStock for us. So he does a lot of business with us in India. What he does in India is he sells training. So he has 3, 4, maybe 5 offices in India, and they bring in people and they teach them how to trade. And he's been very successful. There was several years in a row where year after year, regardless of what he was doing, his sales for MetaStock would double. And he comes into the office. We had him in about maybe a month ago. And but about a decade ago, he was in the office one year, and we wanted to see really what he was teaching people. And so we're like, hey, Rahul, can you show us one of these methods that you use? And it's the method I'm about to show you. We obviously, once he showed it to us, we really liked it. We decided to buy rights to it. We've included it in every version since I think it was MetaStock 10. And it's, again, I've shown this probably thousands of times. all over the world in NSC. I've actually shown it in India, London, you name it. And usually what I do is the same thing I do right now. Give me some stocks, let's look at them, and we look at them, and it works really well. I'm also really glad that we purchased it because it's a fantastic trading system. And like I said, one that I've used personally. And we are getting some stocks in, so that's great. We will look at AMD, Priscilla, thank you, Teva, Tesla, okay? Priscilla says, what is the difference between the RMO and the add-on? That's a really good question. The RMO system that's included with MetaStock is basically a gift. It's what I'm going to show you today. The RMO ATM is, includes RMO, but it also includes 3 totally different strategies. So basically the one I'm showing you today is going to be the freebie, the one that's included with MetaStock. The one that is included in the add-on, he's got 3 total different methods, as well as a really cool real-time power screener application. But we're not going to really get too far down that today. So thank you for the question, Priscilla. Okay. All right. There's a few reasons I like to show this to people. Number one, it's easy. Okay, so if I do a pretty good job, and I'm going to try and do a pretty good job in about 20 minutes or less of showing this to you, so we're going to go fast. But if I do my job, you'll understand exactly why you're getting the rules, where you're going to put your stops in, and kind of how you're going to manage them. Okay. The other thing I like about it is objective. So if I'm not going to say, okay, well, based on what the tweet was done today, you should be looking to go long. We're not looking at that, right? Based on kind of like what the trade war is going to do with China, we're not going to look at that, okay? Based on what quantitative easing is doing, we're not going to look at that, okay? What we want to do is we want to identify what the market's doing, right? And objectively saying, in a trend-following manner, okay, long-term we're bullish right now, so we should be looking to go long. Short-term we're bullish, so we should be looking to go long. Or if the answer is bearish, then bearish. But we want to be able to do that objectively, okay? The most important part of your trading is going to be discipline. So we want to be able to have objective measures in place, okay? It does work on all time frames. I prefer daily. We're going to look at daily today. And again, I've shown this all over the world. It works on a lot of different instruments. It does generally tend to work better on instruments that are trending. So that's kind of like where the performance comes in. You know, you can run a scan, you can find the stocks that perform well and that are in a trend, okay? It is a trend following system, okay? And we did talk about how, you know, the trend is your friend and befriend the trend and, you know, all those cliches. But generally, let's talk a little bit about how you identify those trends, and let's do it in a little bit of a brief manner today. And give me just a second. All right, just needed to get, again, it's allergy season, which is generally about 9 months of the year. I even have allergies personally when it's snowing outside, so there you go. Okay, so let's go into MetaStock here. I'm going to show you how to open up the charts. Again, we're looking at the Dow Industrial Average, but we're going to look at your stocks. So let's go ahead and open up the Power Console again. What I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the chart right here. I'm going to enter in a few of the instruments that you guys want me to look at. So we'll go with AMD. Thank you, Priscilla. Okay. Oops. Let's go ahead and put my cursor in the right place. Okay. Teva. Okay. And Tesla.
And I've also got one from YouTube as well, Jeff.
Okay.
I can give you that symbol.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's mrti.ns.
And mrti.ns. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and open these. Okay. Again, just to kind of reiterate what we're doing, we do have all of our lists down here, but if I'm going to jump to a certain stock, a lot of times I just want to, hey, what's the Dow doing, right? Okay, let's see what the Dow is doing. Or, hey, let's look at AMD for Priscilla or Tesla or Teva. In that case, if I already know what I'm going to look at, what I do is I just put them right here up in the instrument. As long as I've got the correct symbols, they should load no problem. Okay. Over here, I'm going to leave the interval right here as daily. And under Apply Template, what I'm going to do is there's a template in here. And you'll notice I was going to say hundreds. I don't want to misspeak that in case there's not 100. But there's many, many different display styles. You can save your own templates. The one that I'm going to apply as a template is an RMO trade model. And to be specific, for those of you that don't know what a template is, the template, what that controls is what expert advisor is on the chart. So what's given us buy and sell signals, in this case, it'll be the RMO signal. It also includes what indicators come up in the chart. And so it'll have all the indicators that we need to read the RMO model. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and click on Open Chart here. And hopefully we'll open about 4 symbols. It looks like I didn't have the right symbol for TIVA or AMD. Okay, but go ahead and click on cancel right there for now. And we'll just go look up the symbols real quick. One of the things that you kind of need to get used to with Tesla was fine. I got the right qualifier for that. AMD, I believe I need to put in a qualifier for. And typically, like if you're here in the US, you're either going to be looking at .o or .k, depending on where it trades, okay? If it's NASDAQ, you're going to be looking to put a .o after the symbol, okay? Which I believe is the case with AMD. And if you do have questions about that, this instrument search dialog box will actually come up. It's actually not loading for me, but it'll allow you to look by symbol and name to see what the proper symbol is. So we'll do AMD.
And it's TIVA.K.
And TIVA.K. TIVA.K is usually for New York Stock Exchange symbols, you don't need to put an extension on it, but if it's 4 characters or more, you need to put .k. A lot of people ask me why we have to memorize extensions, and that's actually a good question. But the reason is because we use Reuters instrument codes, or they're probably going to rename that Refinitiv instrument codes. But basically, like if you were just to look at AMD, it probably trades in Europe. It has ADRs that trade all over the world. And what we're doing with .o is we're just saying, okay, I want the NASDAQ markets, okay? And that'll give you all the NASDAQ and the electronic markets. There's also, I believe it's OQ, will give you just the NASDAQ main session. But we'll just go with the whole market right now. So I'll go ahead and open up those as well, okay? And this time it worked. And Tiva Pharmacies also looks like it's grabbing data as well, okay? I'm gonna window these charts out, okay? Oh, and one of the things that's kind of interesting here is I am getting a alert. So with the expert advisor, it's saying the stock bar of the price have just changed to blue on ADV. I'm going to skip all the remaining alerts, and but I'll leave the expert attached. I'm also going to do real quickly, I'm going to come in here and actually turn off my alerts so it's just not bugging me while I'm trying to talk about this in case a new tick comes in. You don't really need to know how to do this. I just don't want the alerts popping up for me. So I'm going to just try and turn them off. Okay. Well, it's actually on a screen that doesn't exist. That's fine. We'll just go ahead. Okay. One of the things, if you're working with multiple charts in MetaStock, we just opened 4. There's some easy ways to kind of look at those. And you can either, right here, I can cascade them. I can column them. I'm going to actually tile them. Okay. And we'll just kind of take a look. And I think probably just kind of taking an eyeball at these, I think I'll actually start and kind of explain the rules. All of these charts look like they'd work well with RMO. I think I'm going to go down to Tiva Pharmaceuticals to show you the rules. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay. And now we've got charts open. I've got 15 minutes to get through all of this because I figure I need to wrap up at about 45 minutes for this. So let's talk a little bit about how I identify whether this stock is bullish. Okay. And now we're going to talk about ways to measure it. I may use the word primary trend. When I say primary trend, I mean long-term trend. It's a synonym. If I say short-term trend, I mean short-term trend, or that would be a shorter time interval. Generally, with Rahul's model, or the RMO trade model, he's going to be looking at primary or long-term, medium or intermediate, and short-term trend. Okay. The first thing that we want to do is we want to trade with the trend. So we want to identify what the trend looks like on a long-term basis. And to do that, what we're going to do is we're going to look at the Rahul Mohinder oscillator right here. Okay? I'm going to go ahead and full screen this so we can talk about it for a minute. And I'm going to point out some things that are relatively obvious about this indicator. The first thing that I'm going to say is it's green. The second thing that I'm going to say is it's either above 0 or below 0. Okay? And I'm going to put, I'll use the horizontal line tool here just to kind of illustrate that point. I'll put it right at the 0 level. Basically, when Rahul talks about the indicators and the way that they're designed, is he wants to keep it very simple. Okay, he wants to say, he does say size and shape don't matter, and what we're looking for is whether the RMO is above or below 0. Okay, so if it's above 0, what we're going to say is that means long term this stock is bullish. Okay, which is not the case. It was the case a little bit right here, right around the turn of the year. Okay. Or no, I'm going to say this is mid-January to early February. It's been bearish ever since. It was bearish a good part of December, bearish, and it was bullish up until about December. Okay, but right now, this is obviously right here is the area of the chart we have to trade. Right now, if we're looking to make a kind of just like a value judgment on this stock, we'd say that we're right now in bearish territory. Okay, so our primary trend is bearish. The other way we can read this indicator is if we look, if I just kind of go right up here, you can notice right here where I'm pointing at the very bottom of the chart in case my mouse is not that clear. You see right since about February 5th or 6th it said RMO is bearish. So you can look at the indicator up here or you can look at the ribbon, but the takeaway is the same. Okay, we're below 0. Right now, long term, this stock is bearish. And what does that mean for the system? Okay. Well, it's a good question. I'm glad I asked myself it, but it just means that we're not allowed to buy. Okay, it means we're allowed to shake. We're allowed to shake short positions, take short positions, but we're not allowed to go long. Okay, and that's how we read it. Okay, now specifically, just because it went from above 0 to below 0 right here, we're not going to short there. Okay, we would have worked out well, but if we did, but there's a few other things that we want to keep in mind, and it's a rule-based system. So at this particular point in time, we wouldn't be, you're not going to take a signal just because it goes from above 0 to below 0. Okay, so that's step number 1. It's 3 steps. Identify the primary prevailing trend. If it's in a bullish zone, you're allowed to buy. If it's in a bearish zone, you're allowed to short. You're not allowed to go against the primary trend. We want to leave it as our friend. And it's not a trigger to enter. Okay. Step 2, identify the short-term trend. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about how we do that. It's also very, very simple. Okay. What I'm going to do is right here we're going to look at indicators that Rahul titled swing trade number 2 and swing trade number 3. Okay. There is one change I like to make to this template. I'm going to show you how to do it. It's not that big of a deal. I'm going to basically make this blue histogram into a blue line. Okay. Anytime you want to change anything in MetaStock, double click on it. I double clicked on it. I'm going to change the style of the line to a line. Okay. And that it just makes it a little easier for me to see the crossovers, which aren't that important yet. Okay, but we will talk about those in a second. Those are important. They're just not important for this part of the rules. The short-term indicator, or the swing trade number 2, is the pink indicator. Okay, and it's a short-term indicator. Okay. We read it the same way as the RMO method, or the RMO indicator is what I meant to say. Okay, so you'll notice it is a lot more responsive to price. Okay, so it went bullish right here where the RMO took a little bit longer to do it, and that's just because it's looking at a shorter term time frame. Okay, of course it's going to be more receptive to price if you're looking at a shorter time frame, but the thing is we read it the same way. So if we're looking at the hard right edge over here, it's below 0, okay, which means that bearish it's short term, bullish it's short term, or it's bearish short term, and it's bearish long term as we looked at in the last step. So it means we're still allowed to short, okay? So if we kind of come back out here, right now if we're looking at this stock today, our measurements right now would be that it's bearish both long term and short term. And if we got a signal to go long, or a signal to go short, we could take it. If we got a signal to go long, we should ignore it. Okay? And that's really what my PowerPoint is going to say. We identify the short-term trend. If they match, we can trade in that direction. If they don't match, we don't want to trade. We want to trade when the trends and the odds are in our favor. So we want them to match. Okay? Perfect. looking for just a little bit of questions. Let's see. Oh, okay. Sorry, my questions are a little bit out of order. It does look like there's a few people that are complaining about audio. It doesn't help if I actually tell you how to fix that. So what I'm going to do is actually, if you have problems with audio, I'm just going to tell them to go to YouTube because it'll be the best way. Okay. Steve says, is there a way to trade right from the chart? Not yet, Steve, but a lot of people ask for it. I wouldn't say that's not a possibility in the future. But right now, one of the things that we are is, number one, very broker neutral. Okay, so people that buy our software, they buy it so they can make better trading decisions, not so that they can trade. And that's why it's been rated number one. But no, you'd actually go in and put your trade in to the broker. Okay. Don had the same question, so that answered it. And okay, that looks like we're caught up with questions. All right, cool. All right, so we've identified how to figure out if we're bullish or bearish. The one thing that I want to stress is if you get a bullish long term and a bearish short term, don't trade. Okay, we want in that case the rules allow you to wait. We want to wait until, you know, it looks like a really good time for a walk. Yesterday it was rainy, right? Looks like we'd have a really nice walk if we go for a walk after this webinar. But particularly like when we're trading, what we want to do is we want to look at where the high pressure zones are and where the low pressure zones are. We want to look at where support and resistance. We want to look at where the trend is. And it is a little bit like weather forecasting. You know, we want to trade in such a way that both the long-term and short-term momentum's behind us. So we do have a scanner. There are scans that are built into MetaStock. But if you're in a choppy sideways area, you don't want to be trading anyway. You want to look for those good opportunities and take big chunks out of the middle. One of the things that I kind of like to, we had a guy that we worked with. His name's Robert Dill. He ran an education website. And this was years ago. He's retired now. He's living in Phoenix from what I remember. But one of the things he would love to tell people is like bulls will make money, bears will make money, pigs will get slaughtered. None of the trades that I'm actually going to be showing you today are going to get us in at the very top or get us out at the, get us short at the very top and get us out of that short position at the very bottom or vice versa, right? What they are going to be looking to do is help you identify when the trends are positive and in your favor and take really nice chunks out of that overall trend. And so when you're trading with the trend and you don't see a trend, don't trade. Simple. It seems simple to me anyway. Let's talk a little bit about identifying the trigger. And again, we're looking at Teva Pharmaceutical Industries. And we'll talk a little bit about how the signals are generated in MetaStock. And to do that, I'm going to go back to the two indicators that we were talking about. Okay. So right here, we've got the short-term trend. And it's the purple line. You might have guessed it already, but the blue line is the medium-term trend. And with this one, kind of the trick is we're not really paying attention to whether it's above or below zero. So it does diverge from the rule set a little bit. What we're looking for is kind of how the market is performing relative to itself. So like, for example, right here, and I just want to zero in. I'll put a little bit of an oval right here, in this area. If we were to look at the chart, what we can see is right now, in this area right here on the chart, it's gotten a lot more bearish, okay? It actually went from bullish to bearish, okay? And Rahul will call this a change of momentum or a change of direction or a change of force. Or there's all kinds of different words that he uses to describe it, but what we've got is a momentum shift, okay? And the way that he makes it an objective momentum shift is when the short-term trend crosses down below the medium-term trend, he would call that a bearish shift of momentum or shift of direction, okay? And that happens right here on the chart, okay? Right here is where that actual cross, here it was trading above and down below. When that happens, when that change shift in momentum happens, you'll get a nice little sell arrow on the chart, okay? When it crosses up above, you'll get a nice little buy arrow on the chart right here, okay? When it crosses down below, you'll get a sell arrow, okay? Now, the only thing that you really kind of need to do when you're looking at the signals is also keep the trend in mind. So if we're looking at this one that happened, the most recent one, what you're going to see is like, okay, or do we want to kind of evaluate this as a trade or not? Well, we're getting that shift of momentum. We're in a bearish zone long term, and we're in a bearish zone short term. So yeah, okay. But if we were looking at this one right here, okay, we're in a bullish pattern, okay. We have a bullish shift of momentum, but we're bearish long term and we're bearish short term. And so obviously, unless that scenario changes, we don't want to be trading a short position or a long position into a stock that's going down. We want the trend to be our friend. So we would ignore that particular trade, okay? On this particular one, this is one we'd be interested in, okay? I'm going to go back a few trades. We don't have any opportunities right now, and the stock has kind of fallen quite a bit. But let's go ahead and go back to this opportunity that exists right in the chart here, okay? If we started looking at this, the date that I'm looking at is February 8th, okay? If I looked at it that day, or maybe it came up on a MetaStock scan that day, we went from a bullish long term to and a bullish short term to bearish pretty much the next day, right? Everything went bearish. Bearish long term, okay? Bearish short term, and we have a signal. All happens on the same day, okay? At this point, yeah, this is a trade that I want to take advantage of. But Rahul has some other rules that have to do with like money management and how to maintain this symbol. And even though I'm going a little bit long here, I want to make sure you understand how those work. So when everything matches up, which is this day here, okay, and we'll just kind of get a little bit closer into the chart using the zoom tool in MetaStock. When everything matches up, at this point I want to structure a trade, okay? The first thing I want to do is figure out when I want to go short, okay? So I'm going to take my horizontal line right here, okay? I'm going to look at the day that everything lines up, okay? In this case, that's it. I'm going to look at the low. I'm going to look at the low on the day before. And I'm going to say, okay, here is the lower of those two charts. This is the lower value, okay? And I'm going to put a horizontal line right on my chart, right across that low, okay? That's what's going to be my entry point. Okay, so if it goes down below this value, that's where I'm going to get out of the trade. Or, sorry, I keep looking at the time and say I need to go fast. I think we're going to go long a little bit, okay? But this is the point that I'm going to go short, okay? The other thing that I want to do as a trader is I want to understand where I'm going to get out of that position if it's the wrong idea, okay? So the way that you can do that, Rahul teaches two methods very quickly. The first one is to look at the highs. Okay, so there's this high and this high. And in that case, you'd put your level right here above the high for the last 2 days. I actually prefer his second method, and that's to look for a recent pivot high. So right here, okay, here's a high that's surrounded by two lower highs. Okay, that's what's called a pivot high. And I'm going to put my stop right there in this case. So right now, I know that if the stock goes down below 1783, I'm going to go short. Okay, and regardless, if I go short, no matter what, I'm going to get out of the trade as close to 20.26 if it goes above 20.26. So generally what I'm going to say is on a $20 stock, we've got about a 2-point loss. So I know what my risk is right there. Okay, let's go out a little bit, and I need to go a little bit faster here. What happens is it goes up for a couple of days, okay? And it does this all the time where it kind of just bounces. It finds a support level and it bounces, which is why we want to put our entry underneath that support level. It goes up for a couple of days, bounces in. We probably would have gotten in on this open, okay? We would have seen that it's below our limit to get in. We would have went ahead and placed that short position, okay? What's the first thing that you do? Put in your stop loss. We're not marrying the stock. If we made the wrong idea, the idea is not to be right all the time. The idea is to make money, right? take your ego out of the equation. If we get into this position and it goes up past our stop loss 2026, just get out. You can always buy again if you were wrong. You can always short again. Okay, but what we don't want to do is have this thing fall to 16 and go, oh, I have no exit strategy. Have an exit strategy. Okay, again, it's not being right about being right all the time. You're not going to be. Have an exit strategy. Money management is so important. So, drops down, okay, and pretty dramatically in this example, okay. Here we come down, has a nice move down, starts to move back up, we get a buy signal, okay. What do? Nothing, okay. Quick answer, nothing. Because we're still bearish long term and we're still bearish short term, the market generally tends to move down in steps, right? So in this particular case, market moves down, we get that shift of momentum because it bounces, okay? Then it goes long term, or short term it goes bullish. You can see it pops right above 0, which is why the bar gets painted blue here. I forgot to mention that, okay? If we go bullish long term at this point, we want to reverse. We want to get out of the trade and set up a new trade to the long side, but that doesn't happen. It comes in, sets up a new resistance area and continues to go down, causing us to have a shift of momentum or a shift of force right here on the chart, okay? What we're going to do at this point, we have that shift of direction in our favor. What I'm going to do is move my stop, okay? So, and I'll use the exact same methodology, because what's happened here, we've gone down, it's bounced a little bit, set up a new resistance area. I want to make this a profit protection stop, right? Instead of a stop loss. So right here is where I'm going to set it. That's my pivot high. Too high, a high surrounded by two lower highs, okay? So now, no matter what, it's going to make money, okay? The stocks comes down again. We're happy about that. Right here you have a buy signal or a shift of momentum or a shift of force. It goes bullish short term. Again, that's why you have a blue bars. Here's where it goes up above 0, okay? It doesn't. It sets up a new resistance area and goes down again, okay? And again, when we get this shift of direction to the downside, we're going to move our stop, okay? So far, like on your Teva Pharmaceutical Industries, just looking at this last particular trade, which we started right here, again, we've been bearish this whole time. The stock has actually, we were bearish at 18. The stock's dropped down to about $9. It's lost half of its value. And I'll tell you, at very minimum, we've taken a pretty good chunk out of that. But even if you're just using RMO, I would tell you that when a stock halves its value and you're not allowed to take longs during that position, that's going to be putting the odds in your favor. So that's where we're at. Would I go ahead and short Teva now? I'd probably wait for another setup. But this setup worked really well. Thank you for that example. Let's look briefly, just because we're out of time almost completely, and there's two other things that we're going to talk about today. But we'll just talk a little bit about more of a broad picture on AMD. Okay, AMD. Just looking at it here, had this huge bullish run up here. Just look at this, right? It went from 11 to 31. Back down a little bit before it went bearish long term, but during that entire move up, what we're doing is we're looking to kind of move up our stop and let the stock go up, and move up our stop and let the stock go up. Just in the recent history, it's actually had a fairly bullish year so far. We've been bullish the whole time. It's gone from, during that bullish period, it's gone from 21 conservatively to about 30. So I would make an argument that trading in the direction of the trend is going to be helpful for you. If we're not taking shorts while it's going up, we're probably putting the odds in our favor, right? One more, and again, we won't go, just because of time, we won't go trade by trade for this one, but let's go ahead and look at Maruti Suzuki real quick. Tesla's a terrible stock to trade. It just bounces all over the place. I don't like trading Tesla personally, but again, it's been bearish all year, okay, except for a little bit. And it's been dropping in price substantially, okay? Maruti real quick. This might be an example of one that's not working as well. There's not a lot of range in this stock. You've got a lot of kind of sideways action the last year and a half. this would have been good for you. But this doesn't work in all markets. That's why it's good to go in and find stocks that are actually moving. I'd say out of the 5 stocks that you provided, this one probably looks the worst. We might be eking out some money here and there and here and there and here and there in this sideways channel that it's been in since October. I don't like it though. There's better opportunities. I'd recommend you trade something else if you like the method. I do feel like I gave a pretty good overview on that. I would recommend that if you do start trading with RMO, there's a full hour-long class on our YouTube channel that you can go find, or we can send it to you, where Rahul actually talks for a full hour on how to trade this. I'd recommend you go through that. The other thing I'd recommend, of course, is anytime you're adding, not necessarily RMO, but anything that you're adding, anything to your trading. The nice thing about trading is you can do it on paper for as long as you want, and then you can kind of take small positions to see how it works when we've got skin in the game. And I don't ever think you should be taking a trade that keeps you up at night. Risk management's really, really important, but take it slow. There's no hurry. What we want is we don't want to be right all the time. We want to make money. And anytime you're incorporating something that's new into your trading, take your time. Okay. All right. So that's it for that. 2 other things to show you, and these will go a little bit quicker, but I'm going to estimate, looking at the time, that we're going to go about 15 minutes long, so I hope that's okay. But these are some pretty cool tools that are in MetaStock that I like to look at a lot as well. So let's go ahead and kind of just, we'll look at this with Suzuki, I guess, for the purpose of speed, or whatever stock we're looking at. Yeah, Maruti Suzuki. So there are some really cool indicators that come bundled in with MetaStock. I'll show you them on the indicator quick list. They're called DT Automat, and DT stands for Dynamic Trend. And right here on the list, what you're looking at is longer-term resistance, shorter-term resistance, longer-term support, shorter-term support, trend lines up and down. I actually created, because this is one of the things, a lot of times I'm looking for stocks that have maybe broken through resistance. Maybe they had a horizontal resistance that they've broken through. Or maybe you want to find something that's broken through, like a trend line or something along those lines, right? Well, one of the things that MetaStock will automatically do is I'll automatically label and show you those levels. So there's a template that we actually include with MetaStock, mostly because it just allows you to look at all the indicators really easily, and it's called Dynamic Trading Tools. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and apply that to the chart. I'm going to go ahead and we won't save the chart for Maruki here, but what it's going to do is it's going to try and help you out by showing you where the longer term and shorter term resistance are, and if it sees any trend lines, it'll actually draw those out for you. So right here you see, right here, I'm going to actually make these a little bit bigger than they are by default, particularly some of the smaller lines, just so you can see them. And again, anytime you want to change anything in MetaStock, just double click on it. We have a long-term and a short-term resistance area set up right here. Actually, I made it smaller, not bigger. But right here, you've got a kind of a bigger, longer-term resistance area. Okay. Right now, that's sitting right about here. This is a stock that could break out. It's trading in a channel. I don't like it now, but generally we were talking to we did a little bit of some training with Vince Vora, if you know who that is, this morning, and he likes to find stocks that are breaking up above this channel. Right here we've got a longer term resistance area. You'll notice right here there's some tiny lines that are being brought on in the chart. I'm going to make them bigger, so just so you can see them over the internet. Okay, but right here you'll have kind of a shorter term. It's not finding, so this is a longer term resistance area, a shorter term resistance area, a longer term and a shorter term resistance area, and a shorter term resistance area. It'll also do trend lines. It's not actually finding those, but you can kind of see that these are drawn automatically. I like to know where my support and resistance levels are, and so that's why I like this tool, is it automatically draws them. It's objective, not subjective. I'm not trying to guess exactly where they're at. They're just drawing them for me. One of the things that I like to do with this is I like to be able to scan to find stocks that have broken through support or resistance. So when it broke through this shorter term resistance right here, that might have been a good time to kind of start to take a look at this, right? Because it moved down. There are scans that allow us in MetaStock to find a penetration of any of those lines. Okay, so going back into the scanner, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and open up the Power Console. I'll click on the scanner right here. Right here, just to go through the scans real quick, support and resistance long term, those find stocks that have broken up out long term. You've got short term, okay? You've got trend line, long term and short term as well. So if you're looking for a support and resistance to break, you can go ahead and look at this exploration. This is just a long-term one, which is the one that I prefer to look at. I do have reports. You run it the same way we ran that earlier scan. Because we're out of time, I'm just going to right-click on here and run the one I ran this morning. Okay, so we'll go ahead and go to the reports. This report is a little bit different, so I'm going to show it to you. Okay, right here, you've got breakup. You've got the close value, so you can see that right from the thing. You've got breakup and breakdown, how much volume is under the trade in terms of a percent, how much volume it's up, how much volume it's down in terms of percent as well. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and sort this based on the breakout. Okay, let's say we wanted to find a stock that had recently broken above long-term resistance. I always say support on accident, so that's why I slowed down there for you. But it was really for me, so I didn't say the wrong thing. But if I wanted to find stocks, this is actually a number. So just this number means it broke up above resistance 337 days ago. I'm not really interested in 337 days ago. I can't. That's too far back. But if I wanted to find something that recently broke, I can come down here. I can, and we just find, we come down here to where it's a little bit closer to 0. Anything that's listed as a 1 has broken up on the most recent bar. I actually went too far. Okay, 0 means it didn't happen. Okay. Oh, bit of a big list here, and but right here you get the kind of the idea. Right here, all of these stocks right here, Liberty to Churchill, I just highlighted them. All of those have broken up above resistance in the last 1 bar. Okay, and so you could go in and look at those. You could save them to the list like we did before. But one of my favorite tools in MetaStock. Okay, and one more. I need to trim one of these. I need to come up with, I guess, 3 instead of 4. But let's talk a little bit about Haguro. And I'm going to show you this really quickly. I do like this as a methodology. There's a fairly cool story behind this. I'm going to tell it because this was a 1924 battleship named Haguro. It was a Japanese battleship. It was named after the sacred Mount Haguro Mountain, which, if I remember correctly, is one of Japan's 3 sacred mountains. It's not important. I should trim it. In any case, so to the story behind this one is I was down in Australia. We were running a trade show there, and I introduced myself to a guy that was running a booth that said Australian Society of Technical Analysts. So his name was Gary Burton, and I was like, "Hey, my name's Jeff. My name's MetaStock, guys. My name is Jeff. I work for MetaStock. We like to build cool tools to help people find things in the market." And we kind of had a little bit of a discussion. He's like, I have some methods that I teach my students that I'd like to be able to scan for, and I'd like to be able to identify them and stuff like that. I'm like, hey, that sounds right up our alley, right? So I said, okay, well, I get home from Australia this day, and I'm probably going to be jet lagged for 10 days after that. Why don't you send me kind of your PowerPoints, and I'll see what we can do to kind of make it easier for the students that you have and the people in your technical analysis society that they can use in MetaStock. And so I get back to the office, and he has like some ridiculous amount of a PowerPoint that he sent to me. I swear it was like 400 pages long of this big PowerPoint. But one of the sections that I really liked in this PowerPoint was a section called Haguro. And so what I did was I sat down and I built it into MetaStock. So he didn't come up with the Haguro concept. The guy that actually came up with the Haguro concept, his name is Shimizu. Gary Burton was the guy that was actually kind of teaching the methodology, and I was the one that coded it. Seiki actually, if I remember correctly, he wrote a book called The Japanese Book of Charts, or the Chart of Charts book, something along those lines, but it's a fairly obscure book. But the methodology I thought was really, really cool. And what we did was we actually coded it, and we put it in MetaStock, and we basically include it with MetaStock for free. So here's a few, it's designed for weekly charts. Seiki was pretty serious about that. He said that a personality of a stock that, it was designed for a stock that trades 5 days and rests for 2 days. Okay, so for whatever that's worth. But it's designed to look at weekly charts and kind of give you an idea of what you can kind of expect. Okay, it provides support and resistance. I'll show you that. It gives you an idea of where key turning points come in. I'll show you that. And it's a fairly accurate forecast of what you can expect on a weekly basis. So for me, I'm always looking at the Haguro to decide where that support and resistance levels are. But in addition to that, to kind of confirm kind of my overall mentality of what I'm doing. Okay. He does, you know what a midpoint is. A lot of the work has to do with midpoint, which is just the high plus the low divided by 2, or the midpoint. It's self-explanatory. He uses support and resistance on a midpoint based on whether or not the range is bigger than the week before and the week before that. So it's easier to show you this, okay? So let's show it to you. Let's switch into MetaStock. I'll close this down, okay? And what I'm gonna do is just show you kind of how this lays out. And we'll kind of skip to a big view of this, but I'll ask you to stay with me, okay? So if I come in here to, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna apply a template. To do that, I'll just right click on here. A blank area of the chart will give you this menu. I'm gonna go apply template. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go down to Haguro, okay? I'll go ahead and apply this to the chart, okay? I'm not gonna save this right here. And you'll notice it changed it to weekly for me, okay? So let's go ahead and talk a little bit about this midpoint. Right now, this midpoint will be what is our support level. And it's based on the midpoint of the bar, okay? So every bar we're gonna have a midpoint, right? This is the middle of today's bar is right here. The middle of this bar is here. The middle of this bar is actually right here, okay? So why don't we adjust the midpoint every day? Well, that's a good question. What we're looking for is we're looking at the range of the bar, okay? Just gonna grab a trend line tool right here, okay? I'm gonna kind of draw the range of the bar. I didn't do a great job of it, but we're looking for the range of the bar to be greater than the bar before it and the bar before it. So in this particular case, the range of this bar was bigger than the week before and the week before, which is why we have a new midpoint level, okay? These are also still valid, like this support area right here, this resistance area right here, there would be a resistance area, and it's kind of been banging its head on this trying to get above it, but it's been acting pretty good as resistance. But right now, our support midpoint would be right here, okay? And our resistance would be up here, okay? So every time that condition is met, basically this is gonna be our resistance area, okay? This would be our support area. If we're looking for higher support, we would go with this line right here, this midpoint that was set back in back before, okay? All right, does that make sense? Norm says I have to go. Look forward to the recording. I've learned a lot. Okay, good. That's the goal here. And let's move the chats over. Don says he's feeling seepy. I think he meant to say sleepy. I'm sorry if I'm putting you to sleep, Don. I'll try and maybe I'll incorporate a few more jokes. Anyway. So that's part of it. You'll notice that each of these have ranges, right? Okay, 16.2, 3, 15.3. Those numbers mean things, okay? So let me switch back into the PowerPoint. Midpoint line, that's how it's set. It's support and resistance, okay? As part of the work Shimizu did, and I'm sure I'm slaughtering his name if you're from Japan, I'm sorry in advance for my Japanese, but he classified each of the lines. And you'll notice they look like, and lines candles. He used the word lines, but they just signify the candles. Each of these lines means something unique, okay? And we actually took all of those and we put them into the commentary system in MetaStock. So if we're looking at Marudi right now, the most current week, we have a 16 line. So if I look on the commentary, view expert commentary, it's going to say, okay, right now we have a candle 16. When this is a long line, the midpoint is set as future resistance for declining prices. Okay, it hasn't set a new midpoint yet, but the week's not over. This could very well be a midpoint for the declining prices. You see the 16 line right here. Okay, when this is a long line, the midpoint is set as, oh, I read that part. The line appears on a regular basis as an indication of a high point in prices or a low point. Okay, look for midpoint resistance in a downtrend. Okay, so generally 16s and 12s are longer lines. Okay, and they generally have a tendency to be set midpoints. Okay, the lines that actually are somewhat significant are going to be your 3 line. So right here, just a few weeks ago, we had a 3 line, and basically it said candle 3 is a strong warning of a reversal when found in a high or low price area. When line 3 is found at a high price, long positions should be closed within a week. If the opening price of the following week is above your midpoint, selling is indicated, and short positions should be held. Okay. Short positions would only be closed. So it gives you a little bit of a definition of what that is and what to do with it. Generally, your important lines are your 15 and your 3. Those show kind of an indecisive. And if you're looking at that from a candle perspective, doji, 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 right? These are all dojis. Those are your significant reversal points. So where we're coming in, we have a 3 followed by a 15 followed by a 3. It's a pretty good warning of a reversal, right? And what did it do? It reversed. Okay, right here you had a 15. Again, it's a reversal line found in a high price. And what did the stock do? It reversed. Okay, this thing is awesome, but it does a really good job of identifying it. The way I use it is as a confirmation. And it'll tell you all the lines. There's a little bit about range. You'll notice right here, because I'm going to point it out, the range of this stock has not extended more than 7%. This means candle lines are less significant. We actually measure range, but what it says is the further you are extended in range, the more credence you should give to the pattern. In this case, since we're less than 7% off our high or our low, it's less significant. If it was more significant, we would tell that to you here. Okay. All right. Let me go here. One thing I will say about this, okay, so this is determining, we talked about candle 3 and the midpoint cross. Those are scans that you can run, okay? We did, one of the things I like to kind of mention is I'm proud of it. I actually created the initial code for the Haguro, and it's pretty much a code. We made a couple of changes because I'm not the best programmer in the world, but we made a couple of changes, but they were just kind of a little bit of a small error changes. When I got done with it, I was like, hey, I called one of my buddies, the late Dennis Peterson. He unfortunately died a few years ago, but I called him and I said, you really need to look at this. He was a reviewer for stocks and commodities, and he liked to look at a lot of projects. And I'm like, you had to look at this method that we designed for MetaStock. And he's like, okay. He took a look at it. We kind of ended up talking about it for a while. And he got done with it, and he's like, how much are you charging for this thing? I'm like, I'm not. I'm including it with MetaStock for free. And he did. He ended up doing. I was really proud of it because he ended up doing 2 reviews on it. Normally he'd do 1, and if he'd do anything, but he liked the methodology so much that he actually gave it 2 reviews. One where he actually went in and reviewed the actual underlying methodology and kind of how Seiko Shimizu wrote it. And in the second review, he actually went in and talked a lot about how the MetaStock program was well written, and which I took as quite a compliment. I'm not a coder by default. I just wrote it because it was a fun project. And anyway, he gave it 2 really good reviews. We did decide that it was like the RMO, something that I wanted to give everybody for that owned MetaStock. So it's just included for free. I'd recommend you play with it. It's awesome. I was showing it to a guy up in Toronto a few years ago, I was showing it to a group up in Toronto, and after the class, the guy comes up to me and he's like, dude, I love Haguro. It's one of the best systems in MetaStock. So if you've got MetaStock, I'd encourage you to take a look at it. I'm very, if you don't at least look at it, you're missing out. So hopefully that's the case of all of the tools you've learned or we've talked about today. If you don't use MetaStock already, I would remind you that it's been rated number 1 in its price category 25 years in a row. Okay, we do have a special offer for you. We'd encourage you to try it, of course. We do want you to keep it. We have customers that have been with us for decades as well, and I love it. You know, the tools that are available in it, there's a reason it's been rated number 1 25 years in a row, and I would encourage you, and I would say that it would behoove you to try it. So we have 2 versions of the program. $59 a month is our end-of-day version of the program. And basically, that's it. It comes with data for whatever region that you're interested in. Those regions are Americas, everything that trades in North or South America. The second region is Europe, Middle East, and Africa. And the third region is Asia Pacific. So don't worry about that as much. So the guys will help you figure out what region you want. It was fairly simple when they help you get set up. So it includes like all the tools that we talked about today. We did talk about system testing or forecasting. We did talk a little bit about this expert advisor and the scanning, but it is a full, complete toolbox. Okay, it includes data for the region of your choice. I mentioned that. One of the things that we also do is we do a white glove installation support, and we started that at the start of the year, and it has been probably the most popular thing we've done for new customers. They love it. What happens is once we set up, we'll actually have one of our support guys give you a call at a predetermined time and help you make sure everything's installed and answer any questions you have. It's really good. People really like it. The other thing that I like that I want to mention now, because I haven't, is our every month or every week we look at kind of our statistics for our different departments. To give you some insight, we keep more people on our support desks than we keep in sales and marketing put together. Every week, anytime somebody calls in support, we ask how we did. Last week, or actually I didn't look at this week's, to be honest. Last week, that rating was at 96 or 97%. So when was the last time you called somebody at like Comcast for support and were 97% satisfied? We really do a good job at taking care of people. And that's not uncommon. I hear people say, hey, I talked to Heidi the other day. She really helped me out. I thought she did such a good job. I think all of that support's included as part of the package, and it's for us, we just want you to be able to trade more successfully and keep the tool out of your way. So if you ever need to contact our support desk, it's available for you. We have a real-time version of MetaStock. It's $250 a month. It includes all of the stuff we talked about today. It includes the real-time data. It includes the Refinitiv real-time news. We call it MetaStock Zenith. They spent about $1 billion on that. It's fantastic. Probably, arguably, one of the best news services on the planet. To give you some context into what goes into that news service, they have 2,000 full-time reporters in 200 different news bureaus. It's pretty extensive in terms of what's there. And that, of course, includes the white glove installation support. The other thing that we're going to include is the Unleash the Power of MetaStock DVD tutorials. That's going to go through everything and show you how to use everything. You're welcome to go through that. And it'll tell you about how to use all of the tools, whether it's back testing to help you find the best method to use or scanning to find the best stock. Really a great thing. The offer today is if you buy a month, we're going to give you 2 free months. So like let's take the example of DC. If you pay $59, today's May 29th, June 29th, July 29th, August 29th, you'll be set up until the end of summer, right? Less than $20 a month is really what you end up paying. The summer is a great time to actually start doing this research because the fall is always a really good directional time. So I'd encourage you to try it to get going now. It'll give you all summer, so when the market really starts to move as it seasonally does in the fall, you'll be ready. $59 a month, $20 a month. If you have questions, give us a call, 800-882-3040. You can visit us at metastock.com/saleschat. If you have any questions, you're welcome to email me at jeffrey.gibby@metastock.com. And let's look at the time and see if we have any questions. Javier, welcome to the YouTube chat. Is there going to be a conference in California this year? Yes. We've decided it's going to be in California, but it's probably going to be in the Bay Area, is what we're looking at right now. So hopefully you'll be able to make it. And that's it for questions. So I want to say thanks for watching. I hope it was enjoyable. If you have feedback, let me know. If you felt I could have gone quicker on a bunch of different stuff, I do read the comments. Keep them constructive. I do want to say thanks for coming. I hope it was helpful for you, especially those of you that use MetaStock already. Hope you found some things that you may not be using. In any case, as always, I'll see you at the next one.